Hey YouTube, Spiders804 here, and this is Be a Better Builder number 2. In this episode, I'm going to be covering welding, central prop design, and something I like to call the constraint chain. So first off, I'm going to show you welding, specifically incorrect welding. This has always been a problem in Gmod, but when Gmod 13 came out, a bunch of broadcasters came on to Gmod, their fans followed, they made a bunch of videos of doing things incorrectly, so their fans followed by doing things incorrectly. This is the incorrect way to do welds. Basically, you just weld everything to everything, and you just hope you get everything once. And when you grab the thing, it's all nice and flobby, and it just doesn't work out right, and it looks like crap. So don't do it that way. Another incorrect way of welding is welding in a line. Like so. And you get kind of the same effect, but it's just floppy. So the correct way to weld is this way right here. You might notice there is a central prop in between all of these, and you take this central prop and weld from here once to each of these once. Then you grab from that central prop. Notice the difference? See how rigid it is? It's beautiful. That's basically welding covered. I haven't really found an instance where you want to not weld something to the central prop, because the weld is the most basic of all the constraints, and you generally just use it when you want to slap something to something. So like my seats or my parent prop, they're just welded to my central prop. Next we're going to talk about the constraint chain. And I made this just to show you the constraint chain, and all it is the theory that the longer the constraint chain is, the weaker it's going to get. It doesn't matter if it's axes or ball sockets or ropes or welds or sliders. The more you have, the weaker that chain is going to get. This is because any constraint has a tiny bit of wobble in it. No matter how strong it is, there will be just a little bit of wobble in it. And each time you add to that chain, that wobble is going to multiply. You might notice when I actually shake this, that the first one is not moving that much, but the second one is moving more, and the third one more. And until you get this little movement right here turned into this giant movement here. So what I do on my creations is I count the constraint chains. This would be a good example of a bad constraint chain. This is something I made a long time ago, and let's just do from the engine to the wheels, or yeah, from the central prop to the wheels. So from the central prop to the crankcase, to the crankshaft, to the drive prop, to the wheels. That's too many. Or from the central prop to the wheels for support, the central prop to this riser here, to this hydraulic, to this intermediary prop here, to the wheel. That's a lot of constraints to get from the central prop to the wheels, whether it's power or for support, the suspension. So let's do the same thing. Let's count the chain over here. For the power, you go from the central prop to the drive shaft, to the whatever gear is selected, to the main gear, to the tires. And you might say, whoa, 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 that's just about the same amount of constraints. But there's a major difference here. Every single one of these props is connected to the central prop. The drive shaft is access to the central prop. These gears are access to the central prop. This gear is access to the central prop. So it makes that chain a heck of a lot stronger. And the main thing is the suspension. For the suspension, you go from the central prop to the swing arm here, to the tire. It's a lot simpler than the other one, and I'm actually using a torsion bar connected to the swing arm as my suspension, and the torsion bar is also connected to the central prop. Now I'm not saying that everything absolutely has to be connected to the central prop. I'm just saying the more things that are connected to your central prop, the more stable your creation is going to be. On this creation, there are two things that are not connected via central prop, and the first one is the front tires. They're connected to this swing arm here for support, and for their actual turning, they're connected to this turning member right here. So they might not be connected to the central prop, but everything connecting to the tires is at least connected to the central prop. So it's still pretty firm. It would be the same thing as moving up one here, but we're not way out here. The only other thing on this vehicle is these little suspension members here. I use these as shock absorbers. And how I make these is it's ball socketed right here to the swing arm, and then it is slidered from the middle of this here to here, the middle of this one, and then it is also elastic from the middle of this one to this one. And you get this neat little shock absorber effect. But again, this is connected to the central prop via axis here, and this is connected to the central prop via axis here. So it might not be connected to the central prop, but it's close. The farther you get away, the weaker your things are going to be. I also recommend that your central prop be heavier than most things on the creation. The reason I say most things is there are some cases where it just isn't advantageous. Like on this, the central prop weighs 250, but the next heaviest thing weighs 75, which are the tires. But the gears weigh 350 each. Gears are really my only specific case because they need to be pretty heavy to work, but the central prop does not need to be heavier than them because they're only spinning on one axis, and they're pretty stable spinning on that axis because they have force applied in between each other from them pressing on each other. The last thing I want to remark about is keeping your creations simple. And by simple, I don't mean the amount of props, because this thing has like 300 props, but most of them are parented. So this isn't simple by any means, but there are as few working props as possible. I mean, this is the entire creation. This is it. Everything else is just eye candy. So if you keep your creation simple, there's less to go wrong. And I think in Gmod, the simpler something is, the better it tends to work. Some might disagree with me, and sometimes really complicated things are really amazing. I've seen some pretty amazing gear setups. But I think, especially if you're starting in Gmod, you want to make something as simply as you possibly can. So keep it simple, keep your constraint chains short, and you should end up with a pretty sweet creation. Now, I know some of you might have already known this, but there's a lot of people out there that don't. And this will turn their creations from this crappy thing into this. So, I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching, and have a great day.